Mangaru's Tutoring Services, Mathematics Classes.
Good day, students. Today we are going to take a look at directed numbers. So at this point you can pause the video, read this note, take it down if you would like. And let's begin. So directed numbers essentially is an extension of what you would have already learned from primary school or when you were doing SE. Previously, you would have worked with only the positive side of the number line, right, which is numbers greater than 0 and 0 as well. Okay. Now we have to consider positive and negative numbers. So negative numbers would be numbers before 0 or below 0, so numbers that would be less than 0. We represent a negative number with a minus sign in front of the number, and here are some examples. -3, -7, -94. And you can see on your number line, -1, -2, -3, -4, and -5. Now, positive numbers, we don't necessarily need a plus sign in front of that number. It can be there, but if it is not there, we still assume the number is positive. Interestingly, 0 is neither negative nor is it positive. So when we want to talk about 0, we can say it's neutral or we can say it's non-negative. So let's discuss the number line a little bit more. So your number line is used to represent all of your real numbers. It stretches from negative infinity all the way to positive infinity. So it includes every single real number. This is just a piece of the number line. And as you can see, it has positive and negative whole numbers, as well as 0. So the number line, if we are moving to the right, you can see that the numbers are increasing in value. Okay, so going from 1 to 2, the numbers get bigger. 2 is bigger than 1, 3 is bigger than 2, 3 is bigger than 1. And that is true for the entire number line. So even though the numbers actually seem to increase to the left of your number line, they're actually getting smaller. Okay, so focusing on the negative section, going from 0 to -1, your numbers are getting smaller. So -1 is actually smaller than 0, and -2 is smaller than -1, -3 is smaller than -1, and so on. I like to think of it as owing money. If I start off with $0 and I borrow $1 from somebody, I am now $1 in debt. But if I borrow $3, I am even more in debt, so I am owing even more. Therefore, -3 is actually less than -1. So, the takeaway from this is that the numbers increase to the right and they decrease to the left. Let's move on. Now we're going to look at adding and subtracting directed numbers using the number line. So you would have already known how to do this from primary school with your positive directed numbers. So here's an example. The first step is to find the first number on the number line. So in our example here, we have 6 plus 3. Okay, so this is the number that we start at. We start at 6. So let's look at adding and subtracting directed numbers with our number line. Now, you would already be familiar with using your number line to add and subtract positive directed numbers. So our examples and questions will more focus on adding and subtracting with negative directed numbers as well. But first, let's start off with something that you are familiar with. Adding positive directed numbers. And it is the same steps no matter the sign of the numbers. Using the number line, you always do step 1, find the first number on the number line. Right, that's your first number in your sum. So in this case, it's 6. So we're going to find 6 on the number line. And 6 is here. So 6 is what we call our starting number. So 6 is our starting number. Step 2, determine what direction you are moving in depending on the sign in the middle. So, the sign in the middle is a plus sign. For a plus sign, we need to move to the right. So this sign determines the direction to move. So for a minus sign, we'll go to the left, and for a plus sign, we'll move to the right. Step 3. Move as many places as the second number in the direction determined in step 2. The number you land on is your answer. So, we already know that we are starting at 6. We are moving to the right. So 3 is telling us that we need to move from 6, 3 spaces to the right. So this number tells us the number of spaces to move. So let's switch to red for the answer. We know we need to start at 6. We know we're moving to the right. And we are moving 3 spaces to the right. So, starting at 6, we move 1 space, that takes us to 7. 2 spaces takes us to 8. And our third and final space takes us to 9. So our answer will be positive 9. And there we have it. We figured out 6 plus 3 is equal to 9 using our number line. So let's take a look at some more examples where we actually incorporate some negative numbers now. So here we have these 3 examples that we want to take a look at and solve using our number line. So the first example is 4 minus 6. Now from our example a while ago, we know that we need to start at our first number on the left, which is 4. So on our number line, we have 4. Next, the direction that we need to move in is determined by this sign in the middle here. So since this is a negative sign, we are moving to the left. And we have this number here, which tells us how many spaces we need to move. So we have starting at 4, moving to the left, and moving 6 spaces to the left. And whatever number we land on is going to be our answer. So let's begin. Starting at 4, moving 1 space to the left, it takes us to 3. 2 spaces, and while we move, I want you to think about how it makes sense. 4 minus 1 is 2. 4 minus 1 is 3, rather. 3 minus 1 is 2, or 4 minus 2 is 2. Okay, so we're moving, this is our 3rd space, we're moving to the left. 4th space. 5th space, so we're into negative numbers now. And 6th space to the left. And our final answer will be -2. So 4 minus 6 is -2 or -2. Let's move on to example 2. So example 2 is -3 plus 7. So again, we need to start at your number on the left, -3. The sign in the middle tells us the direction we need to move in. So this sign does not dictate the direction that we move in. This sign does. So not this sign, this sign. So this plus sign tells us that we need to move to the right. And the 7 tells us that we're moving 7 spaces to the right. So we start at -3. -3 is here. And we move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we have moved 7 spaces to the right from -3, and we find that our answer is +4 or 4. Example 3. We have -5, -4. So again, we start at the number on the left, which is -5. So we are considering the sign with the number. We're starting at -5. This sign in the middle here tells us what direction to move in. So we have a negative sign. That means that we need to move to the left. So we start at -5 and we are going 4 spaces to the left, and we know it's 4 spaces again because this number here tells us the number of spaces that we need to move. So we're starting at -5 once again, going to the left, and we're going 4 spaces to the left. So where's -5 on our number line? Here it is. So we start at -5, go 1 space to the left, 2 spaces, 3 spaces, 4 spaces. And we end up at -9. So that's our answer. So these were our 3 examples of how to use the number line to add and subtract directed numbers. Let's move on. Okay, so let's move on to some exercises. Feel free to pause the video now and try these on your own. So for these exercises, you will need to draw a number line in your book from -10 to 10. And the number line is shown here, so you'll know how to do it. So you can go ahead and take this opportunity to pause the video, try the questions on your own, and come back for these solutions. Okay, so let's get into the answers for these questions. For question 1, we are asked to find 5 plus 2. So, first thing we do is we locate 5 on our number line. Plus indicates that we are going to the right, and 2 indicates that we are moving 2 spaces to the right. So 5 is where we're starting, and we're moving 1, 2 spaces, and that's it. We end up at 7. So working on our number line shows that 5 plus 2 is equal to 7. And that's our answer. Next, we have 6 minus 1. So again, we locate 6 on our number line. This time, we are moving to the left because we have a minus sign in the middle. And we're moving 1 space to the left. So 6 on our number line is here. Then we move just 1 space to the left. We end up at 5. So from our number line, we know that 6 minus 1 is equal to 5, or positive 5. For question 3, we have 3 minus 7. So we locate the number 3 on our number line. We are moving to the left, since the sign in the middle is a minus sign. And we are moving 7 spaces to the left. So, locating 3 on our number line, moving 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So our answer is minus 4. Therefore, 3 minus 7 is minus 4. Moving on to question 4. Question 4 is minus 1 plus 4. So we are starting at minus 1, moving to the right, and we are moving 4 spaces to the right. So starting at minus 1, we're moving 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces to the right. So our answer is positive 3. For question 5, we have minus 4 plus 2. So we start off at minus 4, and we are moving 2 spaces to the right. 1, 2. We end up at minus 2. So that tells us that minus 4 plus 2 is equal to minus 2. Moving on to question 6, we have 3 minus 8. So we start off at 3 on our number line, then we move 8 spaces to the left, since we have a negative sign in the middle. So locating 3, which is here, we move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we land at negative 5. Question 7. We have positive 7 minus 6, or 7 minus 6. So we find positive 7 on our number line. And we move 6 spaces to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we end up at positive 1. For question 8, we have minus 2 minus 5. So for this question, we find minus 2 on your number line. Again, the sign in the middle tells us the direction. So we're moving to the left, and we are moving 5 units to the left. So finding minus 2 on my number line. Moving 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units to the left. We end up at minus 7. Next, let's move on to question 9. Minus 1 minus 6. So we start off at minus 1. We move to the left, and we move 6 spaces to the left. So starting at minus 1, we move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces to the left. And that lands us at minus 7. So minus 1 minus 6 is minus 7. And finally, question 10, we have 5 minus 11. So I will locate 5 on my number line, right? Positive 5. So as you would recall, if there is no sign behind the number, or in front of the number rather, your number is positive. So we start off at positive 5, and we are going to the left 11 spaces. Starting with positive 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And our final answer is negative 6. So that was our exercise on evaluating directed numbers with a number line. In our next exercise, we will look at evaluating numbers without a number line. Okay, so now that we have learned how to add and subtract directed numbers using the number line, let's move on to what you would be doing most often, which is adding and subtracting these numbers without the use of a number line. Let's take a look at our first example. Now I'm going to introduce you to the rules, and these rules are dependent on whether the two numbers you are adding or subtracting are the same sign or if they have different signs. Okay? Right, so this is whether the signs are the same or different. In this case, we will look at an example where the signs are the same. So the question we have here is minus 4 minus 12. So of course your first step is to figure out whether the signs of the numbers are the same or if they are different. Okay? Now the sign of the number is found to the left of the number. Right, so if you see a negative sign before the number, it is a negative number. If you see a plus sign before the number, or if you see no sign at all, then it is a positive number. In this case, we have two negative numbers. So minus 4 and minus 12, right? Both negative. So we have figured out that the signs are the same. Okay? If the signs are the same, what we're going to do is ignore the signs. So disregard whatever sign they are and just assume the numbers are positive. Then we add the numbers, right? So we'll have 4 plus 12, and that's equal to 16. Step 3 now is to figure out what the sign of your answer is, right? Now, when you have the same signs, then the sign of your answer is going to be the sign of whatever the two numbers have. Okay? So since both the signs are negative, then the answer must also be negative. So therefore, our answer is negative 16. So step 2 gives us our numerical answer, and step 3 determines the sign of our answer. And our final answer is the combination of step 2 and 3. So there we have it. Negative 4 minus 12 is negative 16. Okay, moving on. So let's look at another example where the signs are the same. So of course, step 1 is to figure out whether your numbers have the same signs or not. In this case, both of our numbers are positive. So as I said before, you can figure out whether the signs are negative or positive by looking to the left of the number. If there's a positive sign or no sign at all to the left of the number, then we take that number to be positive. So in this case, 15 is positive since there is no sign before it, and 6 is positive since there is a plus sign before it. So therefore, both our numbers are positive, so the signs are the same. Next, this rule pertains to when the signs are the same, so we ignore the signs and we add the numbers. Okay, so that is 15 plus 6, which is 21. And step 3 determines the sign of the answer. Now, since both these numbers are positive, your answer will also be positive. So your answer is 21. Okay, let's move on. Let's look at what we do when signs are different. So in this example, we have minus 23 plus 17. The sign before 23 is negative, so 23 is negative. And the sign before 17 is positive, so 17 is positive. Therefore, we have minus 23 being negative, 17 being positive, so the signs are different. In order to figure out what to do, let's look at step 2. Now, when the signs are different, we need to ignore the signs, just like we did before, but instead of adding this time, we will subtract. We'll find the difference. So you pretend these numbers are positive, and then take away the smaller number from the bigger number, right? In this case, 23 minus 17 is 6, right? So you really find the difference between those two numbers. And step 3 is also to determine the sign of the answer. Now, in this case, the signs are different. So which sign do we pick? Well, we pick the sign of the bigger number. Whichever your bigger number was in step 2, take the sign of that number in your original question. So since the sign of the bigger number is negative, then the answer is negative. Right? Just to remind you, in our original question, we had negative 23 plus 17. So negative 23 was negative, 17 was positive. So therefore, the bigger number from step 2 has a negative sign. And that's how we determine the sign of our answer. So our sign must be negative. So our answer, again, you'll combine 6 with a negative sign, you'll get negative 6 as your answer. So minus 23 plus 17 is minus 6. All right, let's move on to another example. So again, let's look at another example where the signs are different. In this case, we have minus 6 plus 19. So minus 6 is negative, 19 is positive. Therefore, our signs are different. So that's step 1. We first determine that our signs are not the same. They are different. Now, step 2 depends on step 1, as I said before. Because these signs are different, we're going to ignore the signs and subtract the numbers. Okay, so we'll take 19 minus 6, which is 13. And to determine the sign of the answer, of course, we take the sign of the bigger number. In this case, 19 is bigger than 6, and 19 from our original question is positive. So our answer must also be positive. So minus 6 plus 19 is equal to 13. And here we have our reasoning. Since the sign of the bigger number is positive, the answer is positive. So my final answer for minus 6 plus 19 is 13. And those are your examples on how to add and subtract directed numbers with the same and or different signs without the use of a number line. So let's take a look at some exercises next. Okay, so let's look at this exercise where we need to add directed numbers with the same sign. Okay, so in this exercise, both numbers are either going to be positive or they're both going to be negative. So let's take a look at the solutions. But before we do that, feel free to pause the video and try it on your own. Okay, let's take a look at these solutions. So in question 1, we have positive 6 plus 8. Both those numbers are positive. So what we'll do is we will add 6 plus 8, which gives us 14. And since they are both positive numbers, your answer will be positive. So your answer is positive 14, which we can just write as 14. For question 2, we have minus 7 minus 5. So from these signs, you can see that both numbers are negative. We will still add the numbers, ignoring the signs and adding the numbers. 7 plus 5, which is 12. However, since both numbers are negative, your answer will be negative 12. Right? So the sign of your answer will be the sign of both of these numbers. For question 3, we have something similar. We have minus 4 minus 11. So again, the signs are the same. So we add 4 plus 11, which is 15. However, our signs are both negative. So your answer will be negative as well. So we have negative 15 as our answer. Question 4, we have 10 plus 15. Both these signs are the same since they're both positive. So we add 10 plus 15, which is 25. And since they are both positive, well, our numbers are both positive, then our answer will also be positive. For question 5, we have minus 3 minus 7. So minus 3 minus 7, for these two numbers, your signs are both negative. Okay, so again, since they're the same, we still need to add. 7 plus 3 is 10. However, since these numbers are both negative, your answer will be negative. So minus 3 minus 7 will be minus 10 or negative 10. Question 6, we also have two negative numbers. So minus 9 minus 12. Again, we'll add 9 plus 12 is 21. However, your answer is negative since both minus 9 and minus 12 are negative. For question 7, we have minus 5 minus 13. So both the signs are the same. We need to add the numbers, ignoring the signs. So 5 plus 13 is 18. And since the signs are both negative for both numbers, your answer is also negative. So your answer is negative 18. For question 8, we have minus 15 minus 14. So again, these signs are the same. We'll ignore the signs for now and add the numbers 15 plus 14, which gives me an answer of 29. And since these numbers are both negative numbers, the sign of your answer is also negative. So your final answer is negative 29. Okay, for question 9, we have minus 12 minus 16. Again, both of these signs are the same, so we add 12 and 16. That gives us 28 as our answer. However, the signs are negative, so we must add a negative sign. And finally, for question 10, we have minus 7 minus 24. The signs are the same since they're both negative, so we add 7 and 24, and we get 31. And since these signs are both negative, your answer is also negative. So minus 7 minus 24 is equal to minus 31. Now, if instead of minus 7 minus 24, note that if you had 7 plus 24, your answer will be 31 instead of minus 31. So that's just a point to note. Okay, so let's take a look at another exercise. Okay, so let's take a look at evaluating directed numbers with adjacent signs. So the word adjacent actually means next to. So we're looking at directed numbers where we have two signs right next to each other. Now you can't evaluate them directly, so you need to simplify them first. So according to this note, when adding or subtracting directed numbers with two adjacent signs, the expression must be simplified before it can be evaluated. The rules for simplification of adjacent signs are shown below. So here are our rules. And as you can see, we have two signs in the middle of these two numbers A and B, and they evaluate to one sign. Now we have been adding and subtracting directed numbers with one sign in between them before. So once we get to this step, we would add and subtract as we had been doing before. So A plus B will be A plus B. A minus minus B is going to be A plus B as well. A plus minus B is going to be A minus B. And A minus plus B is going to be A minus B. So if you notice, when the signs are the same, the signs simplify to a positive sign. So this is if they are both positive or if they are both negative, your signs simplify to a positive sign. And when the signs are different, your signs simplify to a negative sign. So whether it's a plus minus or minus plus, you'll have a negative sign in the middle. Now another thing to note is that we are only dealing with these signs in the middle, not any of the signs that might be on the outside. The signs before E, that is. Right, so as the note says, when the adjacent signs are the same, the signs simplify to a positive sign, whereas where the adjacent signs are different, they simplify to a negative sign. So let's take a look at some examples. For example 1, we have 4 minus 8. Okay, so these negative signs are right next to each other. So we can't evaluate those yet, we need to simplify them. Since they are two negatives, they'll become positive. So we'll end up with 4 plus 8. And that answer is 12. So as you can see, once we get to this step, the rules for addition and subtraction of directed numbers that we had been using before now apply, and we can evaluate our answer. For example 2, we have 3 minus 11. This is the more common way that you will see it. You will see a negative sign and this number in brackets here. Okay, so 3 minus 11 evaluates to 3 plus 11, since we have two negative signs. 3 plus 11 is equal to 14. Okay, so again, once we get here, we have two positive numbers, so the signs are the same, and we must add. 3 plus 11 is 14, and since they are both positive, your answer is positive 14. Okay, example 3. We have 22 plus minus 9. So here, the signs are different. We have a plus minus, so that evaluates to one sign, well, that simplifies to one sign in the middle. So we have 22 minus 9. Now 22 is positive, 9 is negative, minus 9 is negative. So we find the difference. 22 minus 9 is 13. And since 22, your bigger number, is positive, your answer is also positive 13. Moving on to example 4. We have 16 plus minus 5. So again, separated by brackets, which is more common. But still we have signs next to each other. So 16 plus minus 5 is going to be evaluated, well, simplified, rather, as 16 minus 5. 16 minus 5, signs are different. 16 is positive, minus 5 is negative. So we subtract 16 minus 5 is 11. And 16 is positive, it's also the bigger number. So your answer is positive 11. Okay, so these are the same rules as the exercise we were previously doing. For number 5, we have minus 14 plus minus 26. Now, we are not too concerned with this sign here, this negative sign here next to 14, because there are no other signs next to it, right? There are no other adjacent signs. We have adjacent signs here, which are signs right next to each other that are not separated by numbers. So this is the sign that we need, these are the signs that we need to simplify. So we have minus 14, and since they are plus minus, they're different signs, so it simplifies to a negative sign. You have minus 14 minus 26. Now we have a sum with no adjacent signs, so we can evaluate as we were doing before. So we have minus 14 minus 26. These two numbers are negative. So what we do is we add the numbers since the signs are the same. They're both negative. 26 plus 14 is 40. And that's your numerical answer. But since they're both negative, your answer is negative 40. So same rules from before, and we're not too concerned with the sign of this number, this sign here. We are concerned with the signs that are directly next to each other. Okay, and our last example, example 6. So we have minus 7 minus minus 19. Minus 7 minus minus 19. Again, we have a negative sign here, but we're not going to focus on that because now we have two adjacent signs, two adjacent negative signs that we need to simplify. So we'll rewrite minus 7, but this minus minus here becomes a plus since these signs are the same. So now we have minus 7 plus 19. Minus 7 plus 19 now can be evaluated as we were doing before. So minus 7 is negative and 19 is positive. So the signs are different, so we must subtract 19 minus 7, which is 12. And since 19 is your bigger number and it's positive, your answer is going to be positive 12. And those are your examples for evaluating directed numbers with adjacent signs. So if you realize it is really just one extra step before you evaluate them as you would have been doing before. Okay, we just need to simplify the signs that are adjacent before we add and subtract our directed numbers. So let's move on to an exercise. So here's an exercise in adjacent signs. I will give you some time to pause and try this on your own before we look at the solutions. Okay, so let's get into the solutions. For question 1, we have 11 minus minus 7. So this would simplify to, the signs are the same. So it simplifies to 11 plus 7. Okay, which you can evaluate as 18. Now, if at any point in the exercise you don't know how we get from the second step to the third step, feel free to take a look at how we evaluate directed numbers without adjacent signs. Okay, because it is the same rules as we were using before. For question 2, we have 15 plus 8. So again, the signs are the same. So it evaluates to a plus sign. And 15 plus 8 is 23. For question 3, we have 9 minus minus 13. Again, these signs are the same. So they evaluate to a plus, positive sign. So 9 plus 13 now is 22. In question 4, we have 10 plus 16. Again, signs are the same. So it simplifies to a plus sign in the middle. And 10 plus 16 is 26. For question 5, we have 14 minus minus 17. The signs in the middle are the same, so it evaluates to a plus sign. Well, it simplifies to a plus sign. And we have 14 plus 17. which is 31. Question 6. So we have 19 plus minus 6. Now these signs are different. So in the middle of these two numbers, we'll have a negative sign. 19 minus 6 is 13. All right, now question 7. We have 15 minus plus 12. We have a minus plus in the middle, so that evaluates to a, well, it simplifies to a minus sign. 15 minus 12 now evaluates to 3. Question 8, we have 25 plus minus 10. Different signs in the middle, so we have a negative sign. 25 minus 10 now is 15. For question 9, we have minus 8 minus minus 1. Our adjacent signs occur here, so that's what we simplify. Right, so we can leave that minus 8 like that. And then we have minus minus, which becomes a plus. So now we have minus 8 plus 1. The signs are different, so we subtract 8 minus 1 is 7. And the sign of your bigger number is negative. So your answer is negative 7. Question 10, we have minus 2 minus minus 7. Again, our adjacent signs are here, right? This we do not concern ourselves with as yet. So we can write minus 2 minus minus 7 becomes plus 7. And now we have different signs. Minus 2 is negative, 7 is positive. 7 minus 2 is 5, and the bigger number 7 is positive. So your answer is positive 5. For question 11, we have minus 9 plus 14. So the signs in the middle here are negative. The signs in the middle, are both positive. We have 19 plus 14, since they're the same sign. Okay, moving on to number 11. We have minus 9 plus 14. So we have these two plus signs in the middle here. So that gives me minus 9 plus 14. Okay. Signs are different, so we subtract 14 minus 9 is 5. And the bigger number 14 is positive. So our answer will also be positive 5. For number 12, we have minus 5 plus 30. So the plus just simplifies to 1 plus. Then we have minus 5 plus 30. Again, the signs are different, so we subtract 30 minus 5 is 25. And the bigger number 30 is positive in this case. For number 13, we have minus 11 plus minus 8. Okay, so again, we're not concerned with this sign. We are concerned with these two signs since they are adjacent. So we have minus 11 plus minus simplifies to just minus. So minus 11 minus 8. Now the signs are the same. So what we do is we add 11 plus 8 is 19. And since they are both negative, your answer is also going to be negative. Okay, for question 14, we have minus 19 plus 4. Right, so again, looking at the adjacent signs, minus 19. Minus plus simplifies to a minus. So then we have minus 19 minus 4, which means that the signs are the same. So we add 19 plus 4 is 23. And because they are both negative, your answer is negative 23. Moving on to question 15. We have minus 24 plus minus 6. That will simplify to minus 24 minus 6. Signs are the same, so we add 24 and 6, we get 30, right? And they're both negative, so your answer is negative 30. And for question 16, we have minus 7 minus 14. Now there's no sign before this 14, so we take it to be positive. Okay, so we take this as positive 14, which means we have a minus plus in the middle. So it simply simplifies to, so that's equal to minus 7 minus 14, which is minus 21. And those are your answers for this exercise. Okay, so let's move on to multiplying and dividing directed numbers. Okay, so let's take a look at what we should be doing for multiplication and division of directed numbers. So first, before we look at the rules, let's read this note. When multiplying and dividing directed numbers, when the signs are the same, the answer is positive, and when the signs are different, the answer is negative. There's also an additional note that says separate numbers to be multiplied by each other with brackets. The multiplication sign is understood. So yes, that's very common in high-level mathematics not to use the multiplication sign. We just separate numbers to be multiplied by each other with brackets, right? So that's what this looks like. Okay, now A and B would be considered to be general variables. So there are no brackets here, but you will see for numbers we separate them with brackets. Okay? So let's look at an example. Let's take positive 2 multiplied by positive 3. Right, so we separate them with brackets and it's understood that we are multiplying 2 times 3. Okay, now that's going to be equal to positive 6. Okay, since both of these numbers are positive, your sign is also going to be positive for your answer. Now let's look at what if we had negative 2 times negative 3. So going back to our note says when the signs are the same, the answer is positive. So even though both of these are negative, so we have negative 2 multiplied by negative 3, both of these are negative, the signs are the same, which means that the answer is going to be positive. Right, and I'm multiplying the numbers as normal. Now let's look at positive 2 times negative 3. Now in this case, 2 is positive and the minus 3 is negative, right? We'll multiply 2 by 3 as normal, which is 6, right? However, since the signs are different, your answer is going to be negative. So your overall answer is negative 6. Now let's look at negative 2 times positive 3. Negative 2 is negative, 3 is positive, 2 times 3 is 6. But again, since the signs are different, your answer is going to be negative 6. Right, so these are the rules for multiplication. Rules for division are essentially the same. Instead of multiplying the numbers, however, you are dividing them. Okay, now these are a little bit different from your rules for addition and subtraction. So Try not to confuse them. Okay, rules for division. Now, before we get into the rules, I want to point out that you see we have A divided by B, but it's represented as a fraction. Just as the multiplication sign is not really used in higher level mathematics, neither is the division sign, right? It's not common to see either multiplication nor division sign. And what we do instead is we represent division using fractions, okay, or a fractional form, right? In this case, A over B represents A divided by B. So let's use the example 8 over 2. 8 over 2 is going to be equal to, well, 8 divided by 2 is 4. Since 8 is positive and 2 is also positive, your answer remains as positive 4. Okay, next example, let's try minus 8 divided by minus 2. Now, minus 8 is negative, minus 2 is also negative. 8 divided by 2 is 4. And because the signs are the same, your answer stays as positive 4. Right, so it's really just like your multiplication rules. Next, let's try negative 8 divided by 2. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. You divide the numbers as if they were positive, right? However, minus 8 is negative, 2 is positive. So the signs are different here, not the same. So your answer is negative. Your answer is negative 4 here. Finally, let's try 8 divided by minus 2. So again, 8 divided by 2 is 4, right? In this case, 8 is negative, 8 is positive, sorry, and 2 is negative. So what the sign of your answer is negative 4. Okay, since the signs are different. Does not matter if the numerator is negative and the denominator is positive, or if the numerator is positive and the denominator is negative, your answer overall will be negative, and you divide the numbers as if they were positive. Okay, so those are your rules for multiplication and for division. So now let's look at some exercises. Okay, so let's look at this exercise on multiplication of directed numbers. At this point in the video, you can pause it and try these questions on your own. So I'll give you some time to do that before we go through the solutions. Okay, let's look at the solutions. So for question 1, we have minus 2 times minus 12. Now, as we just discussed, the signs are the same, your answer is going to be positive. So we multiply 2 times 12, which is 24. And since minus 2 and minus 12 are both negative, your answer will be positive. For number 2, we have minus 5 times minus 7. So 5 times 7 is 35. And since these numbers are both negative, they both have the same sign, your answer will be positive. Right? So when the numbers have the same sign, your answer is positive. For number 3, we have 2 times minus 13. So 2 times 13 is 26. However, 2 is positive and 13 is negative, so the signs are different, which means that your answer is going to be negative. So for number 3, your answer is negative 26. For number 4, we have 17 times minus 2. So 17 times 2 is 34. 17 is positive, 2 is negative. So the signs are different, which means your answer is negative. For number 5, we have 15 multiplied by minus 3. So 15 times 3 is 45. However, 15 is positive and minus 3 is negative. So your answer is going to be negative. Answer is negative 45 for 5. Number 6, we have minus 7 multiplied by 12. Right, so 7 times 12 is 84. Okay, in this case, minus 7 is negative and 12 is positive, which means that your answer is going to be negative since the signs are different. Question 7, we have minus 11 times minus 12. Now 11 times 12 is 132, and minus 11 is negative, but minus 12 is also negative, which means the signs are the same, which means your answer overall is positive. Question 8, we have minus 12 times 8. So 12 times 8 is 96. Minus 12 is negative, 8 is positive, which means the signs are different, which means your answer is going to be negative. Question 9, we have 18 times minus 4. Now 18 times 4 is 72. Okay. 18 is positive, minus 4 is negative. So your answer is going to be negative. And finally, for 10, we have 14 times 3. Rare occasion, you're actually seeing the multiplication sign, right? But it means the same as something like this. Okay, so 14 times 3 is 42, and 14 is positive, 3 is also positive, so your answer is positive overall, since the signs are the same. Okay. So these are your answers for the first exercise. Let's move on to an exercise with division of directed numbers. Okay, let's take a look at exercise 2, which deals with division of directed numbers. Again, you should pause the video now and try these questions on your own. So I'll give you some time to do that before I get into the solutions. Okay, so let's take a look at number 1. Number 1 is negative 36 divided by negative 9. So we work out the numbers as if they were both positive, right? So we work out the division as if the numbers were both positive. So 36 divided by 9 is 4. Now, since the signs are the same here, your answer is going to be positive, right? So the same rules for division, for multiplication, apply to division as well. Question 2, we have minus 45 divided by minus 9. So minus 45 divided by minus 9. 45 divided by 9 is 5. And minus 45 is negative. Minus 9 is also negative. The signs are the same, which means that your answer is positive. For number 3, we have minus 44 divided by 11. Now 44 divided by 11 is 4. All right. Minus 44 is negative. 11 is positive, which means the signs are different. So your answer is negative 4. For question 4, we have 144 divided by minus 12. So 144 divided by 12 is 12. Since 144 is positive and 12 is negative, that means the signs are different, which means your answer is negative. Question 5, we have 63 divided by minus 7. And in this case, we use the division sign, right? Which means the same as something that looks like this, okay? So 63 divided by minus 7, well, 63 divided by 7 is 9. 63 is positive, 7 is negative, so your answer will be negative. Minus 72 divided by 9. So 72 divided by 9 is 8. Since 72 is negative and 9 is positive, Your answer is -8, right? The signs are different. Question 7, we have -56 divided by -7. So 56 divided by 7 is 8. 56 minus 56 is negative, and -7 is also negative. So your answer is positive. It remains positive. Question 8, we have -108 divided by 9. Okay, so 108 divided by 9 is 12, right? And since we have a minus sign there, one minus sign means that your signs are different. So your answer is -12. Right? And these are the answers for exercise 2. Now, just to point out for question 8, this negative sign here is in the middle of our fraction, right? So what we can do is evaluate 108 divided by 9, which was 12, okay? And then we just leave the negative sign where it is. So your answer is -12. Right, so these are your answers for exercise 2. And that would bring us to the end of arithmetic with director numbers.
Thank you for watching. If you have found this video to be helpful, please feel free to contact us for more information about our classes.